because he hasn't done a. He hasn't. I don't. This is. He think he said this is his first podcast. I didn't want to just like throw him to the wolves and not have any sort of like skeletal structure to it.
Nice.
First one ever, man.
Here we go.
Baptism by fire.
Well, it must be Monday because here we are. Snakes and Stogies 187. We're here. Brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com, Facebook, Instagram. You need a rack. You need a cage. Black Box Cages is all the rage. Phil has them. I have them. Jake has them. Chris has them. Bill has them. Everybody has them. Everybody loves them.
Dude, it's amazing how many people have them and you don't know they have them.
Right?
It's great. It's great. I'm like, man, that cage looks familiar.
I mean, Chris Montross switched, I think, damn near everything over to Black Box stuff. And I feel like that alone says a lot because Chris is very particular about his stuff.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's done that and made 2 trips up to Black Box to pick up, which you can do if you live in the general vicinity of North Georgia.
Or you're a glutton for punishment and want to drive.
Yeah, it's not even that bad of a drive, at least for us here on the coast.
But doesn't Clint Bartley, didn't he do like his whole store now?
No, that was RBI, I think.
Was it? I thought it was Black Box. We'll have to find out.
I don't think it was, but my neighbor must be lighting up because I can smell it from here.
'Tis the season.
Oh, he's a nice guy, but he goes hard. It's a very earthy cologne. If you're at Black Box on the website there, shopping around, even if you're not buying anything, just at least check it out, see what they have to offer. You won't be disappointed. If you do end up throwing something in that cart, use the code THN at checkout, save yourself 10% off your order. It all adds up, especially with the current economic climate, even though I'm reading that it's slowly looking like it might be getting better, like it's on the upturn. So we'll see. It'd be good news for everybody. I might hold the record for the longest Black Box shipment shipped a rack to Utah. Not cheap, but worth it. Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, that's with any of the caging companies, like shipping's going to be pretty brutal regardless. So especially right now, it seems like the Postal Service jacks their rates up this time of year. And then I'm sure FedEx and UPS follow suit as well. So either way, go on the website, check it out. If you have any questions, please message the page or shoot Black Box an email. They will answer it promptly. And, ask a question, get an answer. What a system.
The way it should be.
Then also use that THN code at fulvisapparel.com. Save yourself 15% off your order. That is just for THN viewers and listeners like you. Just THN, Thomas, Henry, Ned, phonetics.
Jesus.
Yeah. A lot of orders still going out. It's been really good. That Black Friday sale did good things in terms of getting it out there and people grabbing stuff. So it's good. I got this old Fisher's Chameleon shirt that I made today. This is like the test print to see how it did.
Looks good.
I'm happy with it. So probably add that up here soon. What else? I got some coffee mugs. I got to add those to the site too. Start getting those sort of rolling. And then I started working on some of those 20-ounce tumblers. But the mug press that I'm using is really kicking my ass. So going to have to change up some things there, but those will eventually be up as well. Give it a follow. Facebook, Instagram, fulvisapparel.com. And then Puget Sound Pythons. Fine folks, the Pacific Northwest. Hey, Miguel. Hadn't seen him in a long time.
I know, man. It's been too long. He's back.
He is. Jeff and Kendra, awesome people. Please give them a follow. They have a pretty big breeding season coming up from the sounds of it. So if you go give them a follow and stay in the loop on that, hunt them down on Morph Market, follow them there. Even though I don't know what y'all's experience has been, but when you follow a store on Morph Market, it doesn't seem to matter because it's not going to tell you if something new like posted, because I've done it for a few people that I want to pay attention to, but I never get told that they're posting anything, or it's weird. I don't know why it's there. It seems completely arbitrary, but it's neither here nor there. You're muted.
You can always go to like your follow the pages you follow to, if you can't remember the name of a business or you can't remember who had this one snake, but it was someone you followed, you can go to your pages that you follow and shop from there. I like
On
it.
Market?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I haven't really investigated a whole lot. I just know that there's been a few people that I hit follow, and I'm like, cool. Now maybe it'll notify me when they start posting stuff, and it never does. So maybe that's not what it's meant for. Maybe
Still, check them out.
Yes. Muted Sound Pythons. And then Cold-Blooded Caffeine, last but not least. The Snakes and Stogies blend is now available at the link down below in the description. If you're not using that link, which is also fine, coldbloodedcaffeine.com, use the code S and S. And is an ampersand. It's not spelled out. Get 10% off some coffee and other accoutrement. I believe I have a box coming from them here Wednesday. I'm very much looking forward to it.
I'm almost out of my my initial coffee that I got. I'm almost out, so it's time to re-up.
That's right.
I gotta give them a try. I haven't
It's
tried it
good.
yet. I'm not like the biggest coffee drinker, but
yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I drink it, not super regularly, but I definitely prefer the good stuff over sort of the most of the store-bought stuff. But ours, like, objectively, the blend that they made for us is really good. It's very good.
Yeah, excellent.
And what did Nate Truax message me the other day? And he's like, yeah, it's good, but the Project Herpetoculture blend's better.
Whoa.
Like, he is messing with me, but I'm like, I honestly don't even know what their blend is, and I'm curious. I need to go look. I'm wondering now. But yeah, we'll have to
do a blind Pepsi challenge.
That's right.
Yep. I mean, Nate plays with crocodilians. What does he know? He's not a snakes guy. We love you, Nate. So what's new on the home front?
Whole lot of nothing, really. I'm trying to think.
No news is good news.
I've just been busy working on shirt stuff and working, and my child is dealing with lice right now, which is wonderful. We found that out yesterday, so that was like a drop everything and go to Walgreens and get the Nix kit, and like sucks. I don't have it.
Sounds like a nightmare.
You got the front line, bro. Just douse her in front line.
Look, so I tried to convince Katie, because I was like, I can go to Tractor Supply and get a bottle of ivermectin and make an ivermectin solution. And I'll bet you that'll work better than this $40, Nix kit.
It's $40 now?
44.
Wow, dude, I remember when it was
a
lot cheap. It was like $13.95. I mean, comb. It's
they have like an essential oil spray that apparently they don't
really
like. It makes her smell like a tiki torch. It's citronella or something.
Oh God.
But I was like, look, like I can make an ivermectin solution I can whip one up, no problem. Like it works great on everything. It's like it kills a lot of stuff. It's like I guarantee you these lice won't stand a chance. She's like, you're not a veterinarian or something like that. I'm like, it's not even like that. Like she's not like drinking it. It's not a magic potion.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I won't lie. My most recent herb trip, we got so eaten alive by sand spurs and chiggers and mosquitoes that I was just continuing to itch a week after the trip. And I was convinced I brought home like bed bugs or something.
Oh.
And I won't lie. I took Frontline spray and I doused my mattress. So had to happen.
Once it's in your head too, you can't get it out of there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just
Mentally,
scratching.
mentally
Yeah,
in
yeah.
your head. Yeah,
Yeah, as soon as we found out, like I started getting the ghost itches.
Mhm.
I'm like, maybe
Yeah.
I've got it. And then it was like, maybe what if I have to shave my beard?
Nah.
Yeah,
Nah.
no, I'm good. She looked like my hair's short, thankfully, and I just buzz it again if I actually did have them. But yeah, man, they were. You gotta wonder like if she's got them, and our friend's kid who had them as well, which is probably where she got them from. Like it's almost like a virus. It's like how far does this thing go? Like how many kids got this right now?
Yeah.
They don't know it. It sucks.
Well, think about this. 100 years ago, you were up the creek or longer. You know what I mean? At least we have stuff like Nick's, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Other than that, yeah, nothing going on. Casey Cannon came down Saturday.
oh, nice.
Picked up some rodents because
Cool.
I froze off a bunch of rodents for him. So he picked jetted down here and hung out for a little bit and then made his trek back up.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then just hanging out.
It's good, man. It's good. 'Tis the season it's like the calm before the storm, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean so I was off Friday for a field trip, and so like coming back today it was stressful and there's a lot to catch up on, and like it's just that time of year. Everyone wants their shirts, not even Fulvius related, but like actual like day-to-day work order kind of thing. People want the shirts and they want them before Christmas, and everyone likes to wait until the very last minute. So
I was actually going to ask you, remind me after the show to ask you about shirt stuff, because for those of you who don't know, if you use the shop app, you get points and turns into money, right? And it's minuscule, right? So I think I had like $10 accrued or something, and I bought a shirt from this one company with my $10 credit or whatever. And the company I know is in Pennsylvania, and the logo is the Keystone State, rectangular symbol for Pennsylvania, right? But it shipped from South Carolina. And I was like, oh, what are the odds? I wonder if Smitty made it. But that shirt smelled so bad. Whatever chemicals were in it, or like maybe it was the packaging that it was in, that shirt stunk like melted plastic. So I didn't even try it on. I just threw it right in the wash. And
is it polyester?
Yeah. It's probably a blend. I mean, it feels very similar to a Fulvius shirt. So
Gotcha.
But
yeah, who knows? I know some of like those. So when we do like cotton twill bags or something, those when you heat them up and press them before they go on the printer, like they smell horrible, but it's not like a chemically plasticky smell. That could be just from like the screen opener or something. If it was screen printed, there's a couple chemicals they use, like spray tack, to keep the shirt in place while they print it, and then like a chemical that dissolves that emulsion that they use for the screens that smells pretty strong too. But I mean, who knows?
Who knows?
It could have also been the bag. So.
Could have been the bag. Yeah.
What's new down yonder?
Nothing much, man. We had some nice, cool weather. Got into the 60s, and I was really excited about starting to cool down stuff. And now it's back to like, what is it, like 82 right now? It's disgusting.
It's been like high 70s here again. I'm like, these snakes are trying to sleep, damn it.
Yeah, it's 77 right now with a 84% humidity. So yeah. But just checking the Govee, and the desert room is holding well. So despite this disgusting peak in soupage, it's actually only 75 in there, with it peaked to 46% humidity. So it's holding. I could live with
Those
that.
are great little devices.
I know, right? Wow.
I got a room full of them.
And for those of you curious, my VPD peaked at 1.7.
I'm still
shout out to last week.
Somewhat confused as to
Of course we all are.
How it relates to my room. Like I kind of loosely understand the concept, but that number means nothing to me. Maybe it's because it's not something I really have to worry about. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, shall we introduce our guest?
What are you smoking this evening?
Oh yes, this evening. So I always butcher this name. Iora?
Iroa. Iroa.
Iroa? Yeah.
Iroa.
I have no idea which one this is. It says on the barcode, it says CBT. So Charlie Bravo Tango.
Charlie Ben Thomas.
I was assuming it was like Connecticut Broad Tobacco or something like that, but it's definitely not a Connecticut. It's dark. It's real dark.
I mean, it could be a broadleaf. It'd just be. Let me look it up.
Yeah, let's fact check this. But it's a 2013 stick, and it smells fantastic. It feels fantastic, and I like how Iroa. Is that how you say it?
Iroa, yeah.
Iroa. They do a like a partial wrapper. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but you have your normal band, and then this here, this is all wrapper, but it's open on the bottom. So I thought that was interesting. And it literally is like a sleeve, and it just slides off.
So it says it is a Maduro, wrapper, filler, and binder, all 100% Maduro. So it's almost like Camacho's triple Maduro.
Okay.
So I hope you ate before you're smoking that, because
I did.
You're probably gonna feel it.
I had London Broil.
Oh, nice.
It was good. It was good.
Doesn't say. I guess it's 100% Honduran. I don't know. It doesn't say specifically the country of origin.
Yeah, and it says Calidad Superior. And then
Yeah, it must be Honduras.
Salud Amor Presentas. But yeah, it's a 2013 stick, so we'll see. What about you?
My father, Connecticut, which is one of my favorite Connecticut's, bar none.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Legit.
I was going to go by the shop earlier, but Raj decided to not be there and leave a sign on the door that says back in 15 minutes, but you don't know if he's been gone 5 minutes, or if he's been gone 35 minutes, and that's the point of why he puts that sign on the door, because he's an asshole. So I ended up sitting there for 15 minutes, and then when he didn't show up, I was like, whatever. I was really irritated, because this is like the second time this week that he's done that, where he's not there, and I'm going to put him on blast right here, because someone's got to. So I ended up getting back in my car, riding over to the liquor store that has 2 humidors that are fairly decent, and grabbing one of these. So there it is. They're delicious. They're great, no matter where you get them.
They are very.
It's a great Connecticut.
One of the few Connecticut's I like.
Really? Why is that?
I like a darker smoke. The and I always forget the best one, Charter Oak, right? There it is. Charter Oak, best Connecticut ever made.
I don't know. Those Intemperance Connecticut's are pretty damn good. It's a pretty tough one to beat.
I'll tell you what, though, this thing is light and really weird.
I was going to say, you don't look like you're lit all the way.
And like, I don't want to draw too much more, because I mean, I'm going to suck the whole flame in there.
That's what she said. Well, while Phil gets that handled, yes, this week we are joined by another fellow Pacific Northwesterner, Mr. Shawn Perry of Sound Serpents.
Yeah.
Here to talk about some bloods and short tails.
Yeah.
Is it? I was gonna say, like, I naturally want to say bloods.
Everybody does. Yeah.
But is it bloods or is it short tails too? Kind of like, do you keep?
So like short tails is the complex, and the easiest way to remember is all bloods are short tails. Not all short tails are bloods. So yeah, your Sumatran short tails, your Borneo short tails, but they're all part of the same complex.
Right.
Yeah. But everybody, black bloods, Borneo bloods, I mean, you hear it all. It's everybody does it. So we're a little picky about it, as far as us in that like niche or specific group, but yeah, everybody does it. So
I don't want to be one of those guys where they're like, "Oh, those are cool bloods," and they're like, "They're short tails."
Well, I always say that I'm old enough and I've been in this hobby long enough to be able to say black blood.
Oh, same. Yeah. That's what
Yeah,
they were called when I was growing up too. So,
exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
it drives me a little crazy when I see it, but I'm not one of those people that needs to like jump on it and be like, hey, you know, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. You know, it's annoying, but it's whatever.
Well, we got Nick here too, and he's got me scared.
Nah.
He might roll on down here and shoot me in the leg.
Nick's good people. Good guy.
He is. So kind of the usual jumping into things. You know, how did you get into herps? Give us the short version, the long version,
Yeah.
and
I mean, it's,
how did you land on Curtis and Bloods?
yeah. It's probably somewhere between the long and short story that, you know, it's probably the same as you guys or anybody that's watching. It's at this point, you know, I'm 36, so I mean I'm not old, but it's been my life is at this point as far as I can remember, you know. I've been keeping probably since I was around 8 or 9. You know, I started keeping my first short tails, which at the time were Sumatrans. That's probably like '01 or '02. Um, but yeah, like I remember, you know, as a kid, I took a trip to Florida with the parents and went to a gator park, and at the end of it, there was like the option to hold the alligator or a snake, and you know, back then it was a Colombian red tail, you know, imperator, you know, just bi now, but I just remember because the Colombians, if you guys remember back then, you know, the stock was totally different. There was like this beautiful gold Colombian. I wouldn't say a red tail, but a lot more colorful than what you've seen in like the late '90s, 2000s. And I just remember being like blown away. Like, you know, the gator had his mouth taped. I'm like, that doesn't seem exciting, but like I could hold a snake, you know, that was nuts. And yeah, I've seen that, and then it was just kind of like off to the races, man. Just begging my parents, and they didn't really have much give on that. Um, and you know, a few years later, you know, as we were speaking earlier about Providence, there was a pet shop called Regal Reptiles at the time, ran by a guy named Shawn, and it was pretty close to my house, so I would just go there and annoy the shit out of him. You know, every chance I got, I'd spend my whole day at the pet store. My dad would call me at the pet store to make sure I was coming home, and they imported a ton of stuff, so I really got to be like hands on and see so many things. And they let me volunteer at the shop. I usually tell people like I worked at a pet shop, but I didn't. I just sat there, and they were kind enough to let me stay
I
there.
mean, technically, if you did like labor, you did work.
Yeah, I mean, I did some work. You know, it was whatever, but it was small. But the
Everyone starts off as a
experience,
cricket boy.
yeah, and the experience was, you know, that's immeasurable. The stuff I got
Yeah.
to see, especially that time frame, late '90s, early 2000s. It was, you guys know, everything was coming in. It was amazing.
The Wild
Yeah, a
West.
lot of this, yeah, the stuff people are paying top dollar for and consider rare now are a dime a dozen. You know, and things weren't that expensive. Expensive animals, you know, what, 300-400 bucks at the most. You know, back then I was into
Yeah,
boas,
man.
and I was Argentines and drum rolls. You couldn't sell drum rolls. Argentines were like 150 bucks,
Yeah.
and that was an expensive boa back then. You know, I mean, times have changed obviously, but yeah, I mean, that's really the story. It's the same as everybody's. I just, you know, going outside, catching garter snakes, salamanders, frogs, and just kind of went from there. And then I guess to circle back to the short tails thing, prior, I had a collection probably around the same size, but it was primarily just focused on boas, a lot of locality stuff, and you know, different species, and that was really my first focus. And then I kept short tails on and off, and then probably the last 4 years or so just went all in and just dialed in completely, and only keep short tails really now, besides maybe a few boas and a couple other pythons.
What locality in boas were you sort of heavy on?
Back then it was definitely more like not getting too into localities, but species. You know, boa constrictor at the time. I was really into Surinamese, Peruvians, had Argentines, and then, you know, had Dumerals, and then localities, Hogs Islands, stuff like
Yeah.
that. You know, yeah. I mean, I was young, so my collection definitely wasn't as focused as it would be now if I were to dive into it, but it was still pretty focused.
I still miss, man. I had a Nicaraguan phase for a while where I kept
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those, and Every now and then I'll see some pictures of some for sale, and I'll get the urge and be like, I just a pair.
Yeah.
Just a pair. So I know that's not what's gonna happen.
I'm still fully like into boas. Like I still have Argentines, still have Dumerals. I have some Solomon Island ground boas, some rough scaled sand boas. Now it's just time and space. You know, I don't have either, so it's like a lot easier to focus in on something at this point. But
for sure,
once I move to a new space, it will definitely grow again for sure.
So everyone that comes on this show that keeps Dumeral boas, I always ask them, do your Dumerals have a weird birthmark patch under their chin?
Yeah, they pretty much all do. Yeah, all mine do, but in general, most Dumerals all have. It's kind of like a translucent little like.
Yep.
Yeah. That's common. Yeah. And
I
all
always
mine
ask. I'm waiting for someone to say no. They don't.
I've heard people say no, and it always kind of leads me to think that they probably have a hybrid. A Madagascan ground boa or Dumerals. Because I've never not seen it on a Dumeral. So
exactly.
I feel like a hybrid like that would be fairly obvious, though. No.
So I have one, and it was not bought for that reason, but it's the reason it also hasn't left my place because I don't want to put it out there. Mm-hmm. It's a pet only animal, and at a young age, she was really vibrant in color. It wasn't super noticeable until you looked at the head scales. Because they have larger like shield scales.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most beautiful animals ever, but as it aged, it was definitely a lot more obvious that it wasn't a Dumeral's boa for sure. But I got duped and didn't know it until it arrived, and then what do you do from there?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna get duped, I feel like that's a good dupe.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I'm not mad about it. She's a beautiful animal, so it's cool. It's whatever. Have to have pets too.
That's right. I had something boa related too. Yeah, the Nicaraguans I liked, and then I had a pair of Tarahumaras.
Oh, those are awesome.
For a while too, and I that's the one species that I fully regret getting rid of. They were horrible, but God, they were cool. Like they were.
No, they're awesome. All those insular species are really cool, man. The Calkers Cay, the Corn Islands, all that stuff. Yeah, cool stuff. I mean, not the Tarahumara and Island boas, but they're still a dwarf species.
Right.
They're cool as hell.
And those, I always wanted some Calkers, but never.
Yeah.
At the time, like they weren't very readily available. And I think they're probably even harder to get now than they were.
Yeah, they're still
20 years ago. But I don't know. Again, sometimes I get that itch. I just want those smaller boas. The South American stuff, it's gorgeous, and I like it for what it is, but it was never something that appealed to me in terms of like size and keeping them. It was always the Central American stuff that I was drawn to a little more. But
gotcha.
Yeah,
all cool stuff. That's for sure.
Your Hog Islands did you have more peppery ones, or did you have more pink ones, or what?
Yeah, so mine were from Vin Russo. Well, I had a pair from Vin Russo, but then I had a pair of Sayers lines as well. And I always preferred the more peppery animals myself. I like the high pattern. Still to this day, that's kind of, if I'm looking, that's what I like.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
It just makes for a great contrast, especially when they hit that light phase. It's really nice.
Oh yeah, very cool, man.
Yeah, cool stuff. One day I'll get back into it, first love kind of stuff.
I've got a laundry list of stuff where it's like, hey, when space opens up, we're getting back to them. It's happening.
Yeah, same here.
Dart frogs being one of those.
Oh, right on. That's cool.
Dude, I'm just like Bill posted some of those pictures today of somebody, someone basically dropped off to him at the facility there, and I was like, God, I want some of those again. There's a couple different kinds, but they were just, man, they're so much fun. I'll take those over saltwater tanks any day. I don't know how people do the saltwater tanks. It's too much work.
Yeah, it's not for me either.
But current collection, what's sort of the, I know it looks like you keep a lot of morph related stuff, but how's that kind of split currently?
For the longest time, it was definitely 50-50, like more, quote unquote normal line bred stuff. And I'd still probably say that stuff probably represents like 25% of the collection. And it's actually, my Instagram would not tell you this, but it's actually, I prefer that kind of stuff. The morph projects were kind of like just a whim. It was, going back to boas, it was, what I liked about that is you had multiple species, you had localities, you had all these like line bred animals, so specific lineage and whatnot. And when I made the jump into short tails, we have all that. As far as locality, not so much. I mean,
Right.
You have your Bankas, you have your Sarawaks with the Borneos, but with the bloods like naturally occurring color phases, you have the yellows, oranges, reds. Then the Sumatrans, you have the northern and the southern race, the Borneos. So when I kind of jumped into that was the focus, and then the morphs kind of crept in, and then hate to have that ball python mentality, but once you kind of get into it, you're like, well, I could have a couple of these, I could have a couple of this, and it just kind of snowballed. But the selectively bred, the line bred stuff is actually probably what I like way more than the morphs themselves.
Yeah, it can't hurt to have a yellow this, a white that,
Yeah. And I try to do that with my normal stuff. Like I have a yellow project I'm working on. I have some really nice animals from different people, but a lot of modern stuff in my collection. Then Sumatrans, I have blacks, chromes, orange heads. I have the Sarawaks for the Borneos. So yeah, a little bit of everything for sure.
Super cool, man. Super
Thanks.
cool. I saw you have golden eyes, and you also have was it magpie?
So I don't have magpie,
Okay.
but I do have a couple of different golden eyes, and so that is a martyr. Actually, that's a martyr panic line cross, and that's from Kara. And manic panic is one of her bloodlines.
When I think bloods, like that sort of weird
classic,
graphite
right?
head. Yeah, I love that.
It's funny because I say classic, but I mean that's not what bloods looked like 30 years ago.
Yeah. Well put.
But everyone associates the red, and that's the same animal as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to actually see because the pictures are so small, but I'm pretty sure. Actually, no, that's just a regular martyr, and that's from Matt O'Malley's Morphs, Matt Gabarant. But Goldeneye definitely makes up a decent part of my collection for sure.
Yeah, man, it's a great looking animal, and the coolest name,
Yeah.
Especially for our
name, right?
our generation, right?
Yeah.
Nintendo 64 for life.
Yeah, you got the Golden Eyes and the 007s. Yeah, can't go wrong.
Yeah. Great looking. I love that Woma look. Go back, Smitty.
With the yellow head.
Yeah, look at that thing,
yeah.
man. That thing is killer.
Yeah, so that's the northern race of the Sumatrans, the orange heads, the pumpkin heads.
Super
and that's
cool.
That's an animal from Matt as well. He's working on a stripe project. You don't really see many like morphs within the Sumatrans. Yeah. And that's something he's been kind of breeding and selecting for the high stripes.
Yeah, just nuts. My time with these was pretty short. I had a baby for a while, and that I think we've talked about it a couple times, but it was like the Jack in the Box thing for me that I just it was like mental torture because you knew it was watching you, you knew it was going to happen.
Oh, they're always watching.
When. Damn it,
That is definitely a short tail trait. They're always watching.
A little sucker would get so huffy and puffy, like you could see the bedding moving because of how like heavy he was breathing.
Yeah, they got that like ticking.
Yeah. I don't know. They were fun. Again, like it's one of those things where it's like maybe I just need to give them another shot.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, and they've came so far. I mean, within my whole group, I have 3 animals maybe that like I don't trust.
Yeah.
But I can still work with, no problem.
Look at that though, man. Look at that contrast.
So that's a
killer.
genetic striped goldeneye from Nick Bettini, Cold Blooded Earth.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, man, for sure. Oh, look at that one in the middle. Oh, it's just crimson, man.
Yeah, and in person, he's like oxblood.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Just as bright as that picture shows, like the yellows or golds or whatever.
Yeah. Smitty, go to that golden eye above it. Oh, look at that, man.
Yeah. That's a go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say I'm not a white snake kind of guy, but like that is not a white snake. That has got that cream color. You can still see the ventral stripe or the vertical stripe, the jet black, man. Like that snake is like awesome.
It's the facial pattern on those for me, like that almost gaboon like stripe going behind the eye, and
that's like what they closest resemble. You get that comparison a lot. The gaboons, yeah.
Yeah, man.
And that one's actually that's a 007. That's a super striped 007.
Oh wow!
And if you've seen it in person, a ton of color. There's like reds in there, yellows. It's actually a quite
I mean, you can kind of see some of that peeking through down here near the tail. Yeah, they're just
absolute killer.
Thanks, man.
It's like you can't decide what you like more because this is also just as awesome as like the almost patternless stuff. It's like
You see the dilemma I have.
It's just so bizarre that it's got that burnt spine, but then it's got the it opens up into those just light sides and.
Dude, it's the love child of a Sulawesi retic and a gaboon viper.
There you go.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
It's a good comparison. Fair enough. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, was it Argentine?
Yeah.
Nice.
All my girls.
Oh, look at that thing, man. Cryptic as hell. Awesome.
I mean, you can't beat Argentines and doom rolls for that like cryptic. Just it's amazing.
Yeah.
I get excited just looking at these pictures. Like you're showing them, and I'm like getting excited.
So, all right, it's kind of hard because obviously they're on the ground. There's really no scale. But how big is that Argentine? Is that Neo?
No, she's about 3. And
okay,
cool. I hate using the terms like slow grow and stuff because I feel like people take them to extremes. But I don't feed heavily, and she's about 3 years old.
Okay, cool.
And in that picture, that doom rolls is maybe in its. I can't see the year in the picture, but maybe it's first year going into a second year.
61 weeks ago, October 1st.
Yeah. So maybe like 2 years, year and a half, maybe. And who knows when I took the picture? I take so many by the time I get to posting them. So
you look at the wood planks in the background. What's that? 4-inch wide plank?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that gives you good scale, man. That's a good looking animal, good size animal.
Yeah, I've never been a heavy feeder, not my thing. No need for it.
Dude, look at those eyes. Awesome eyes.
Like the lipstick demon from Insidious.
Yeah, right? That's great.
I don't know why they called it. I thought his name was like legitimately. I thought his name was Steve.
Go back to that granite one. Is that a granite? Is granite a thing in short tails?
I would say it's the closest to granite. So that's an old picture, but that's a Batrix. So batik and matrix combined.
Very cool.
But yeah, very similar to the granite pattern.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's awesome. You can see it still has some of that graniting on the head too, which is cool.
Yeah, that's they awesome. Tend to have a lot of like speckling. Yep.
See, man, this is so
granite
awesome.
Granite is a thing. You see it in Borneos. I think you might have just passed a Borneo that has some granite in it. If you go up a little bit. And that's a male Jumerals. He's like a 2017. So you can see that, he's not very large.
Mm-hmm. Which one was it?
Just if you went back down, it was like right under the children's python.
This one.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, wow.
So that's a granite stripe fade Borneo short tail.
Dude, that's so cool, man. And it's crazy how blood morph names make sense. Like
a lot of them do.
Like granite fade. Like the snake is clearly faded. It has granite on the sides. It has a vertebral stripe. Like It is what it says. Like
They
that's
call
awesome.
a spade.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like a lot of the Borneo traits definitely are a lot like their names kind of say what they are. You know, lattes, ultra brights. You kind of can tell what they are.
Yeah.
What about where did Matrix come from?
So Matrix is a blood gene, and Matrix is so that's incomplete dominant. You know, the ivory is the super form.
Okay. Look at that. Does it get any darker?
That will be a jet black animal. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that will be completely black.
Yeah, that's killer. Super.
And I
killer.
have some that are a little more high contrast, but that particular animal will be jet black.
And do they keep the eyes?
Some do.
Okay.
Yeah. Some will keep the silver eyes, but a lot of them turn to orange.
All right. So taking morphology out of it, what do you lean more towards? Borneo stuff or Sumatran stuff? Or like are you a black's blood guy or are you a red bloods guy?
So Sumatrans, my favorite are the orange heads or the chrome heads. And then I would say that's my favorite species in the complex. Borneo, not for any particular reason, but probably my least favorite. And then my collection's probably pretty blood heavy though, to be honest.
Yeah.
But stuff like that, like an orange head Sumatran, absolutely my favorite.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's kind of weird, you know, you have these ideas in your head, and then I look at my collection, I'm just like, wow, it's really blood heavy. There's a lot of morphs in there.
Is that a Timor?
It is, yeah.
It's a Lesser Sunda? Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually passed that girl off to Jeff and Kendra.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, great animal, dude. That's a lie. It sucked. It was nice to look at, you know.
Yeah.
She wasn't bitey, but you know, pissed over everything.
It's a great snake after it's emptied its bowels.
Yeah, and it's an even greater snake now that it's somewhere else.
Oh man.
But they are cool, man. Cool for sure.
That's awesome. I had no idea that Jeff and Kendra even had a Lesser Sunda.
Yeah, I'm sure they picked up a male at this point, but I'm pretty sure when I gave them that girl, that was their first one. Yeah, and I think she might have been about 2 years when I passed her to them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did that one come from Ryan?
No, so that I got that a few years before Ryan produced his. That was actually, you know, it was listed as a captive born animal, but that was a pickup from Nerd. Yeah, so. You know, it is what it is.
Grain of salt.
Yeah. You know, but never any problems. Healthy animal, came in good, did well.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I got nothing bad to say.
So you've got a ton of great animals. You got a ton of Punnett squares in your brain lined up. What's the breeding plan? Do you have a time frame? Do you have a first round picks that you want to do?
Yeah, for sure. Well, right now I have some orange heads paired up, a caramel to a het caramel that has some striping going on. So I hope to push that forward. Most of my animals are in like the grow out stage. I have a lot of animals approaching that kind of 4-year mark, and that will, you know, hopefully with some of those animals, if the weight's there, that will be the start of it. But for bloods, I'm really into the slackline project, and not a lot of people are working with that. I mean, it's out there. What is that? It's another stripe gene, but it works a little different than, you know, a lot of stripes. I guess I lean towards they're more polygenic because you're kind of just stacking them, even with super stripes. But the slackline works in kind of a weird way where there's 3 levels. And I would say there's quite a few people that have a good idea of how it works, but I don't think it's been worked enough and really locked down to know exactly how it works. But the level 1 animals tend to be not so much stripe, but a little more banding. And then your level 2s will have the stripes. And then your level 3s really look a lot more like super stripes, you know, very reduced side pattern, heavy stripe, bold. And I really want to work that into a lot of my projects. And some of the lesser known albino lines like the T+ yellow or the T neg lavender, that's actually a slackline animal. That's a level 2 slackline batik.
So is the slackline like that thick stripe that's going down the back, and then the batik
so
is what adds that sort of leoparding type?
Yeah. Especially so you can really see that dorsal pattern. A batik is like broken up. That's, classic batik. But how it's really just defined, that's the slack line adding to that. It's really just tightening up that dorsal pattern.
Oh, it's so weird
It
how
just
it's
really
like
cleans it
chaotic
up.
but clean at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's a favorite right there. That's one of my favorite animals.
It's also, it just gets cleaner like as the further down it goes.
Yeah. And it has a lot of great blacks, which, will lend to, some teen egg projects and stuff like that. So I'd really like to get those animals into some albino traits.
It's trying to pull some up as we're talking about them.
But yeah, I don't know. The projects, they're all over the place. I mean, I definitely have things that are big focuses. I really want to work with the pollen and the flower gene more. Slackline's big. And there's a lot of stuff, honestly, and I think at this point for me, there's a lot of stuff I would like to selectively breed to make better, or at least what I think is better. But at this point, it's really kind of just stacking some of those combinations. It's kind of uncharted territory. I mean, there's guys doing it, right? Like Nick's doing it on a high level. Elijah at Juggernaut's doing it on a high level. There's smaller, lesser known guys that are doing it too, but as a whole, it's really still uncharted territory. So there's room for everybody. There's room for a lot of projects. Everything's kind of fair game at this point.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
How are you keeping most of this stuff?
Like as far as temperatures, that kind of stuff.
Well, I was more so like, so many people think in their mind, okay, this is a lowland forest area animal. Do I need leaf litter? Do you keep them on newspaper like a lot of people? Do you do substrate at all?
I'm not like, I know it's like sometimes it's taboo for people, but racks, paper, very simple setups. And part of that reason is, bioactive cages, whatever the different things are and ways people keep. There's no wrong or right way, but there's like things that work better for certain species, and for an animal like this, just the amount of urine they pass, it makes it incredibly hard and expensive if you're maintaining a larger collection to keep that collection sanitary. It's and it's expensive, it's costly, but with paper and racks, I'm in there every day, so nothing's ever left. I can clean, move on. It keeps it simple. And when you keep these species, the one thing you'll realize is I'm in there every day. Sometimes those snakes don't move for a week. They don't move an inch. I mean, they're ambush predators. They're completely fossorial. They don't want to do anything. They just want to wait for food. And if you provide everything correct for them, sure, you can do more, but you don't need to. And it makes it a lot easier to keep things simple because you won't run into problems. When you have dirty cages with these guys, their lung is 75% of their body. And you keep a cage with that high ammonia smell, that's why they get respiratory infections. You can't keep them like that. So sanitary, clean, simple, it's the best way. If you have 2 or 3 animals, go crazy, do whatever you want to do, But when you're keeping a collection, it's not really feasible. It's not with a species.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's a ton of parallels between those and chondros, and it's I know I'm not the only person that's talked about it, but they're kind of like the chondros of the ground.
They're the same and completely opposite.
Yeah, like I feel the same way as far as like the natural versus simple setups. I feel that the simple thing just works better for chondros overall. The care and stuff as far as temperature sort of ranges you're wanting to keep them at, feeding regimens, like humidity, like the similarities between those two groups is freakish considering how
very close
they are.
It's insane.
So yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. It's like you can do the naturalistic thing and it looks great and all, but in my opinion, I think you're just making things harder on yourself.
Absolutely.
I think it's just asking for more issues than you really needed. But yeah, I mean, what's your feeding regimen like on yours, like from small stuff to adults?
That first year, they're on pups and to weans. I don't really like to push anything, but by that first year, you're in that small range for sure. By the end of that year, you're in mediums, and you can get there faster. I guess, you're never going to see a fat short tail that's 1 or 2 years old, right? Like they're using all that energy to grow. You can push them. You can push them hard if you wanted to, because they'll use it. They'll absolutely use it. But once you hit that 3 or 4 year window, except for maybe cycling to breed, you really need to dial it back. You can't just pump these guys with food. It's so 7 to 10 days as babies. Once they hit that, usually 2 years, I'm probably at like 10 to 14 days. My males at the 3 to 4 year range, they're eating every 3 weeks, maybe a medium rat. My females, 3 weeks to a month, a large rat. Then when feeding comes around a few months before, they might get out, weekly for a couple months, shut them down and let them empty out and feed them heavy a little bit again. But pretty like standard python keeping, it's nothing crazy. It's probably what more people should do, slow it down a bit.
Yeah, again, it's just chondros the same way. It's like when they're young, they do great, they coast, no problem. But it's like they hit that 2 or 3 year mark, and that metabolism slows down even more for an already slow metabolism snake. And it's like they get chunky really quick.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with those more sedentary ambush type species, they don't burn calories. Like that weight shows up, but it doesn't leave. Like it's so hard to get weight off of green trees, and I'm sure bloods and short tails are no different. It's super easy to get them really really fat, and it's very difficult to get them to lose that. So my males is the same way for me. Like with my male chondros, they get fed a much lighter diet, much less frequently. Like they're kept pretty lean. Females, I do my best to keep on the leaner side. I have a couple where that's worked out great, and I got a couple where they're definitely a little heavier than I prefer them to be. But yeah, it can be tough because it's like once they hit that stage where they're just not growing as much, all of a sudden they're just storing all that food they're taking in. It's not getting processed, and it just gets out of hand quick.
No need to keep the males big. And it's the same with the chondros. Like you see with the females, they give so much to their clutches. Like you need to put that weight on the females for short tails. Like they need it because they put so much into those eggs. But other than that, like you don't need big snakes. You don't need to push the limits. It's not good. It's unhealthy. You shorten the lifespan of your animal. It's no good,
What size setup are you keeping your older animals in?
So for the most part, like any of my animals that are adult stage, with the range they're in for weight and height, they're in the ARS 85s. So like the 85, I have the 85 14s. And that will accommodate most short tail adults because you're kind of getting into the realm of like a 4 foot by 2 foot cage, essentially in floor space. You will have the occasional animal that will need bigger space, like more like the boa tubs from Vision and ARS. But males, like even my adult males, a lot of them, they can be kept in 70s. Some may need more room, but if you keep your males at a good size, they don't really outgrow that too much. And of course, there's always going to be people that argue that, right? I mean, there's always going to be an argument for more space, but they do pretty well in that. They like confined space. They like to be able to touch multiple sides of their hives, their tubs.
And that's, again, that's one of those things where it's like you gotta do what the recipe calls for with whatever species you're dealing with. And it's like bloods seem to be a perfect example of like if you give them something massive, they're not going to do great.
Like, they want that contact security.
They want that tight space. They want the minimal. They want that. That's but
yeah, I'm probably guilty of letting my babies go a little longer than they need to in their their grow out tubs, because they just do so much better. Just even moving them into like the 55s. Sometimes it's too much for them.
Same with chondros, dude. I've had that same problem where I bumped them up from a 6 quart. They've outgrown that fully and put them into something like a 20 quart or something a little bigger than that, and they just doesn't transfer. They just don't do as well. So I end up moving them back until I can sort of figure out what I need to do to make it work. But it's just this whole concept of every species needs to start 40 gallons minimum.
And that's human nature too. You want to fit everything into this like box, and you really have to be. You got to watch your animals. What do they say? A student of the serpent. You got to pay attention to your animals. You have to, or you're never going to be successful. Whether it's breeding, keeping, whatever it is, you have to pay attention.
I feel bad for the newer people that are coming into the hobby and they're joining these Facebook groups and stuff and asking for advice, and you have the loudest people in the room are the ones with the worst information, and most of the time from what I've seen, and it's people that are saying, oh, you got a baby corn, like 40-gallon aquarium, nothing smaller, minimum of 8 hides, 4 on the cold end and 4 on the hot end. And maybe
a 40-gallon aquarium for a baby corn is absolutely massive.
That thing, it's like you might as well just put it in the freaking Kalahari Desert or something, dude. That's another thing people seem to lose. Like the idea gets lost of, like, it seems small to you, but when you're that little, you're Macaulay Culkin in the freaking mansion, man. Like, you got all the room in the world. There's a weird aspect ratio sort of to it.
Well, I think a lot of these people haven't spent any time in the field. I mean, when you go out and look for animals, where do you find them? They're in tight, confined spaces unless they're out, basking or something or looking for food. You're finding them in a tight, confined space. That's where they like to be. You want to replicate that as much as possible. Sure, you can do it in a big cage, but it's pretty overwhelming if you haven't dialed in all your parameters.
I mean, I'm sure Phil's had a very similar experience keeping, gaboons and stuff. Is like, if you keep a gaboon in like an oversized enclosure or something huge, do they tend to kind of just shut down and not really?
No, it's
not necessarily adults, but like younger stuff. If you put them in something huge, are they like, oh my god, what's going on?
So it's very species specific. But if we're gonna go off of ambush predators like bittis, for example. Dude, puff adders will use every single square inch possible. Their sole goal in life is to move until they find the perfect spot, eat something, and then leave and find another perfect spot, at least in my opinion. And it's going to be regional. It's going to be species specific. But gaboons, dude, I've had a gaboon not move for like 6 months. Like move its butt. Like move its butt enough to take a crap away from where it's sitting, but like the head never moved. You know what I mean? Like just the back end moved
to the point where you're like, "Are you alive?"
Right. Or it'll do
to go in there with a hook and like just see if there's any reaction to it.
Well, no. What you do is you shine a flashlight in there and see if the pupil dilates. That's what you do. And then all of a sudden, for those of you who are watching this, they do this. And they look at you from the side, right? And then every once in a while, you'll see the leaf litter just kind of raise up and fall, much like your bloods,
Yeah. So, it sounds like what you're describing.
Yeah, and that's just what it comes down to. Like ambush predators, if the conditions are great, they don't need to travel. But something like puff adders, in my opinion, they're always traveling, even if it's just nightly. You know what I mean? So
well, that's why I brought up gaboons specifically, because I think of all the larger bittis, I think puffs probably don't. That they're like the exception to that rule, because
and that's going to be the smaller stuff. So like stuff that's in South Africa, and even like go so far as to say East Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, that the Drakensberg, like that area, that southeastern corner, do those things. They're pretty active. But like a puff in Morocco on the side of a hill face is never going to move. It's going to sit there because the humidity is perfect. It has microclimate. It has a breeze. Right. It probably is drinking dew off its own body. It's just waiting for that mammal or that lizard to walk by. So it's, I feel like give them enough space that if they wanted to move, they could, but there's no reason for a 3-foot fat, stout snake to need an 8-foot cage. Like it's just not in what we're talking about.
No, it's not. It's not practical at that point,
When you have moved some of those smaller ones into, the next size up as far as setup goes, what's the first thing you notice that tends to sort of be the hiccup? Like, do they go off food? Is it?
So I haven't experienced going off food. A lot of people do though. That's definitely pretty standard when the the enclosure needs aren't being met, that's one of the first things. It's even in the Facebook groups or when people ask for advice, like if your animal's not eating, your temperature is incorrect, cage is too big. It's pretty standard stuff. What I do notice is snakes that were very calm before are very easily agitated. And that's usually across the board. When they're not comfortable in their enclosure, the personality change is almost instant. And I'm kind of a hard ass. I don't go backwards. If they're eating, they're staying there. Maybe I'll provide a tighter hide, whatever, some more crumpled up paper, but they're not going back into a smaller tub. That's not happening, As long as they're eating. If they're not eating, then I'll dial it back and try some other things. But other than that, it's once they're there, they can work out their quirks, and I'll work around them until they calm down. Let them be snakes. That's basically it.
Yeah, that was the first thing to go anytime I had issues with chondros being bumped up, is they stopped eating, which is very noticeable when you have an animal that has never refused a meal a day in its life, but all of a sudden you try to feed it and it's like, no.
Oh yeah, if something in my room refuses, I know there's a problem. Like,
first sign of something being off. And I mean that's a great thing for being able to notice those kinds of things when that happens, because it's very clearly a red flag that something's going on. But I guess that's kind of the great part about species that are always ready to eat.
Yeah.
But I've also found that when I moved them up, I figured out that if I took either the paper towel or the puppy pad or whatever it was I was keeping them on and put that into the new setup with the bigger setup, even if it takes up a small chunk of space, that seemed to make a world of difference in terms of getting those animals to adjust faster and get back on track sooner. Like, had far fewer issues, because I tried it with multiple individuals in green trees in particular. I think after me and Phil had talked at one point about familial sense being around and that sort of helping them transition a little better. But I'm very curious if you tried that with bloods, if you'd have a similar thing, because with the green trees it was
going back to like the scent thing for sure. So if I have an animal, dirty a cage and I'm cleaning everything, a lot of the times I'll keep the hide. I won't sanitize and clean the hide. I'll put the hide back as is. And then, obviously there's a time limit to that. I'll take it out eventually and clean it and sanitize it. If it's a mess, obviously it goes right away.
Right.
But if it has a little bit of a scent to it, it's not dirty, I'll usually put that back in the tub. And, am I thinking it helps things? Maybe. I don't know. But I do find that there's definitely some comfort level to that. Just having that cage, the familiar smell.
Yeah, man.
I do notice with babies. Yeah. When you put a baby in a perfectly clean cage, they're cruising. It's new territory all of a sudden, right? So yeah, having some of that. When I kept my snakes on bedding, it'd be like 3/4 cage tub changes. I'd maybe keep 1/4 of that old material and mix it with the new stuff and keep it going. And then as time goes on, clean everything at some point. But I'd always keep a little bit of the old material in my cages for sure. I think it helps.
Yeah, I'll do that with corn still, where if I move them into something, I'll take a handful of that old bedding and put it in there with the new, especially for some of those smaller animals that are, kind of weird about eating and shy eaters and things like that. Again, whether or not that actually makes any real difference with the corns and kings in particular, it's whatever, but I like to think it does, and it's not like it's hurting anything by having, this little sprinkle of familiar smells across the new stuff. So
I think there's something to be said. You want to keep things clean and as sanitary as possible. Less issues arise that way. But as a whole, I think we're a little too clean. A lot of people, and a lot of that stuff comes from the ball python guys. You gotta clean the cage and sanitize it every single time, and it's like no. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jeff Ronnie at the Boa File. No.
I know of him. I don't.
Okay. So when he changes his babies, his 1-2-year-olds, he doesn't use anything but water. No sanitizing, no sprays, nothing. Wipes it down with water as long as it's not a mess, and they're right back. And sometimes you can't argue numbers. He's wildly successful.
Yeah.
Animals are healthy, produced in large numbers for a long time. So there's probably something to be said for that as well.
Yeah, it's got to be really, really, really gross for me to completely strip it down and fully disinfect and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now, like I use Zep for my cleaner, and I do it, have it pretty much just for water bowls at this point. Because when I do water changes, I'll spray a couple pumps of that in there and let it sit for a few minutes, and then wipe it out and refill it and put it back in. But other than that, like, unless the tub is absolutely disgusting and I'm keeping baby corns or something on paper towel where they're just destroying it constantly and it's gross, like I usually don't spray and wipe things down. Like I'll leave them kind of a little nasty, just because,
I'm a little bit of a clean freak, but tubs and bowls, I'll let them go a little longer than, I mean, hides and bowls rather, not tubs, but hides and bowls I'll let go a little longer.
Yeah, man, gotta keep the smell like them. Like I said before with cobras and colubrids, the hide box has dried urates on it. I leave it. It's not really affecting them. It's really not dirty per se, but it's got just enough scent to make it still feel like home and not entice them to poop on everything all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, Phil, the basis of you sort of doing that was that you noticed that it was purposefully doing that. It was like you'd put a midnight in and it would ruin it. And it's like, it clearly wants this to be that way. So let's just let it do that.
Exactly.
Short tails are notorious for that too. I always say the best part about cleaning day is cleaning the next day, because as soon as they have a clean cage,
every time, Which with green trees, it's always surprised me how they're the exact same way, and they've really don't ever touch that bedding, like that puppy pads, paper towels, whatever. Like they're very infrequently in contact with that, but if you change it out, they know. That same night, same thing. They're gonna mark it. They're gonna make it theirs. It's like stuff that's actually on it or underneath it or like in it, like that I get. But the green trees, man, it's like I change them, and that's the one way I can guarantee that they're gonna go is because I did a sub change, and it's like, damn, man.
Absolutely.
I'm starting to wonder if I should just put a layer of paper towel over that and then let them go, and then I don't have to waste a puppy pad.
Yeah, puppy pads aren't cheap.
I love those things though, man. They work like $1 million.
I've never used them. I've never used them with my animals before, but I know a lot of people do.
I mean, for green trees, they're perfect because they're there to just absorb whatever might fall. If I want to bump up humidity, I'll just spill the water bowl a little bit on it, and it has the same sort of gel crystal stuff that I think people use for crickets and stuff, basically inside of it in like a powdered form or something. But yeah, I mean, they're great. They absorb it on the top and they're waterproof on the bottom. So they're great. They're perfect.
Yeah.
What, when you were using like particulate bedding, what were you using?
Cocoa chip.
Okay.
Reptile chip, cocoa husk. Yeah, I found that it holds humidity really well. The one thing with it is if it's not, saturated, it dries out quickly and it will pull humidity, I find, from tubs and enclosures. But it works pretty good, to get that ideal humidity level. Just when you're dealing with, 60 animals or so, it becomes very costly and not efficient in any kind of way.
Yeah.
Because I'm cleaning 10 tubs a day sometimes, 15 tubs. Sometimes it's 2 or 3, but I'm cleaning a lot, so it's not efficient. And some people do it. Some people have great success with it. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, I've never really used it. Every time I've sort of seen people using it, it seemed like it was always like the top surface layer would be dry, but then it's like as you went down, it was just
saturated,
damp and saturated, and I don't know. It just always seemed like
I think it's a fine balance.
Yeah, it seemed messy. It seemed like too overkill for some stuff, for a lot of stuff, and it was. But I can absolutely see it being the case where it dries out and it zaps, any of that extra moisture.
Yeah, it kind of once it dries, it just sucks everything from the enclosure. Yeah, your humidity levels will drop for sure.
What temperatures do you prefer to keep the bloods at?
Kind of 78 to 82 is really that sweet spot.
Okay.
So I heat my whole room, and keep it at that. And then when I do offer a hot spot, it's only a few degrees more. It might be in that 84 to 86 range, but that's just a localized hot spot. But 78 to 82 is, yeah, perfect. Once you start getting into if your ambient temperatures are creeping up to like say 84, 85, you'll have a pissed off snake. They don't like high temperatures. They'll use it for digesting and stuff, but they do not like a high ambient temp.
Seems to be the case with a lot of Pituophis and stuff too. At least from what Jake's mentioned, if you keep them hot, they do seem to get angrier. Like it's just like they're irritated all the time. But
it kind of seems to be across the board nowadays too. Though I feel like I see a lot of people lowering temperatures just as a whole. I think we're keeping things too hot for too long.
For sure. I'm at a point now where it's like I don't feel a need to keep anything over 85, be it ambient or a hot spot.
Yeah.
And even then, if things get cooler than that, it's like whatever. I've as the years go on, I come to find that it's just like if you're comfortable, they're comfortable. Most likely is kind of like, the days of 86 plus hotspots to me are kind of over. Like there's some species, where they require that hotter temperatures and stuff, but I feel like the vast majority of species that are being kept in captivity, like the need for that is pretty slim.
It's minimal. Yeah, I don't think you need it.
Because right now, I mean, my room, now that it's winter, my room is cooler, but like the rhinos do great. The Persimmon do even better, I think, than the rhinos in the cooler temperatures. Chondros, like ambient, they do great. Corns, all that stuff, like everything.
Are you keeping your room around that same temp, 78 to 80?
Yeah, if not a little cooler currently.
Gotcha.
I have the heater that I just hooked up and stuff, but it's been so warm the last 2 or 3 days here that I haven't even plugged it in because I know as soon as I get that thing rocking and rolling, it's going to be too warm in the room. So at this point, I'm just like, let them be colder. They'll be fine. They're not going to care. It's just, it hasn't been an issue. Everything seems to be rock and rolling. There was a point where I first started sort of experimenting with those cooler temperatures and being like, man, I really hope they'll be okay. But after reading some of the, with green trees in particular, that Terry Phillip and Julander book, where they talk about, they're finding green trees and it's in the 50s on some nights. And granted, that's I don't think that's a regular occurrence for most of Papua. Maybe in like those really higher altitude localities, sure, but it's like these things are tougher than we give them credit for.
Yeah,
it's like there's a reason they've survived as long as they have. If they were susceptible to dying at the first drop to 70, they'd be extinct. They wouldn't be here. So
I think when people experience some of those problems with the cooler temps too, it's not adjusting the humidity as well. So now you have a low temp in a cage with high humidity, and that doesn't really work too well, And that's, I think, finding that fine balance. I think if you're going to let the temperatures drop that much, you definitely got to dial back your humidity in your cage as well.
Yeah, what are you doing for your stuff? Because most of the time to fix that issue, I mean, I'm in South Carolina, so humidity is very rarely an issue. But most of the time, if I want higher humidity, I just up the size of the water bowl.
Yeah, pretty similar. I mean, I humidify my whole room as well. Nothing too crazy. I mean, here in the Pacific Northwest, it's not very humid typically.
Yeah.
But I keep the room around 55, and I don't really measure humidity a ton in my tubs or my cages. I'll keep that room around that 55 mark, and I'll kind of spray as needed. And then definitely when they're going into shed cycles, as soon as I can tell they're going into blue, those tubs are getting misted every day, until they shed. Yeah. But humidity is not long as it's in that range, it's not dropping below like kind of like 55 or so. I don't pay a ton of attention to it unless they're going into shed. If I start seeing a lot of dimpling in their scales, you know, I might hit them with a little more, but I don't pay a ton of attention to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's humidity to me. It's much less of an issue. You know, when I'm getting bad sheds or something, it's like that's an issue with hydration. That's not a humidity issue. That's a hydration issue. You know, it's just that animal needs to be soaked, or you know, give it fresh water or something to get it drinking. And I have some green trees that if I missed them, they'll drink like crazy. I have some, if I missed them, they want nothing to do with it. But if I put a fresh bowl of water in there, you know, that night they're down there drinking. So it's also, it boils down a lot to the individual animal as well. How do yours do as far as misting goes? Do they?
Most of them like it. I have few animals that like, they just freak out. if you know, if that water hits them, they freak out. And kind of just to add back, going back, it's like, I don't want to suggest that you can keep these animals dry, because you can't. You need a baseline for sure. You don't want them drying out. That's for sure. You're opening up to respiratory infections and whatnot. But misting, yeah, most of them tolerate it. The big thing, like you said, is hydration. And what these guys will do is, as soon as you change that water, they're coming to drink. So I take, you know, bowls are replaced weekly, but I'm dumping out and refilling every 2 days. Constant water changes every other day, and they will drink. And you will see a lot less problems. Not that it's super common, but people will say that it is, that they have constipation issues. And I will chalk that up almost every time. It's that your water bowl's not being changed enough and your cage is probably too dry. Because if you offer these guys fresh water, they'll drink. So, and that helps a lot.
Are you doing anything as far as the water goes? I mean, do you use a filtration system, or are you just using tap? What's the
right from the tap? Usually I will have a 5-gallon pitcher, and I'll let that sit out overnight. But that's about the extent of it. Yeah. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I use one of those bigger pure filters that's meant to like put in a refrigerator, not like a regular pitcher, but like one of the bigger sort of reservoirs. I've been using that for a while. I use that for dart frogs, and I had no issues with the water quality and having problems with them. But
I think if you were in an area with,
it takes forever. It takes a long time to get that thing to fill up, though. That's kind of my only gripe with it. Is like when I'm doing water changes, it's like I can do like an entire rack's worth of stuff, no problem. But then when I get into like the chondro bowls, which are bigger bowls, you know, it's like now I'm only filling up 2 or 3. And I gotta fill and wait for it to filter through. And if once that filter starts going out, it takes forever. It's like, it's brutal.
And I don't know what your water quality is, but I think if you have hard water, or just water that's high mineral content, that filtration is probably beneficial. But I haven't seen a need for it here.
So. Yeah, I honestly haven't even tested mine. I did it just because the filters were handy, and for when I was doing dart frogs and stuff like that, I wanted to be able to trust that I could use it and not have any problems. And even with tadpoles and stuff, I used it, and I didn't have any problems. And I feel like those would be kind of the perfect test for that kind of thing, because if you were going to have issues from the water, it was going to be with those, you know. So other than that, I mean, I haven't had any problems with the snakes or anything. So the filters are kind of expensive, and it's a pain when they start to go out. But
I
don't know, it's pretty nifty. I like it. Are you planning to do anything with maternal incubation?
It's definitely, so I have tried it before, I should say. It didn't work out. I've done it with children's pythons. Didn't really work out for me. It's probably something I would like to try with short tails at least once, you know. I'd like to see it. I think it's really cool. No immediate plans. I'd like to get just maybe a few clutches under my belt first, but it's something I'd like to try. Yeah, absolutely.
Did the children's just abandon it, or what's the?
Yeah, so I tried it the first year I ever bred children's. I tried it that first year, and she laid the eggs, immediately left them, and never went back to them. No interest whatsoever. Yep, just see you later.
Whatever.
And those eggs turned out pretty good. I mean, they incubated fine, but she had no interest in them.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I want to try it at some point. You know, I don't know when that'll be. Seems like every time I'm hopeful that I'm going to get a chondro clutch or something, I'm like, this is going to be the one where I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But I know, like, last minute, I'm going to bitch out and I'm going to pull it.
It's really hard just to let it run its course.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't know.
I'd be checking them every 10 minutes.
And I mean, there's plenty of guys that have done it, and they're like, it's not that serious. They know what they're doing. Again, they've been doing it for so long. If it didn't work, they'd be extinct. So
absolutely,
it's just that thing.
Yeah, I would like to see it. I know people that have done it, and then like most recently, Trace Harden Herpetologica. He did a clutch. I think that was last year, and he maternally incubated him. And I think he had like a really high success rate. I think it turned out quite well for him.
Yeah, everything I've heard about that maternal and the sort of the results of the clutch, a lot of it seems anecdotal, but most of the people I've talked to that have done it, they're like, yeah, the babies seemed sort of more robust, and then the clutches, the hatch rate itself seemed higher. Whether there's anything really to it scientifically, I'm sure there is.
Yeah,
because there's so many things that mom can pick up on that we can't, and that we can't do in an incubator that mom can. There's like
and they can make those minute changes quickly.
Nuances, So
yeah,
Phil's back.
I'm back in the flesh.
There we go.
I thought it looked a little funny, and then now I see Shawn Black. Is that me or is that?
No, that's you.
Yeah, there he is. There he is.
Okay, I was gonna say, have you not been able to see me this whole time?
No. I saw you earlier, and I just came back, and the screen's black. So now you're back though. Now,
all right on.
Good stuff. So what did I miss, boys?
We covered a lot.
Yeah, we were talking about humidity and hydration and
excellent
substrates and
all the stuff I wanted to hear. That's a beauty of podcasts. I can listen back, right?
Yeah, it's pretty run of the mill stuff too. I'm not doing anything groundbreaking over here, that's for sure.
Sean's saying this is what he does for bloods, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I do for chondros, and then you just repeat that whole conversation.
Fair enough. I was gonna say the best keepers are always the most modest.
I'll take that as a compliment.
There you go.
Jeff asked if I was getting inspired for some slug snake apparel. Ironically,
you definitely should do it.
The funniest thing is that's like bloods and short tails. That's been like the most requested thing the last couple of weeks, and it's been at the top of the list of stuff to do.
The names work perfectly for it. You can go a lot of ways with Bright or Brong. Like they're pretty easy. Maybe a little corny, but you can get it done.
Yeah,
I'm all about some puns, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Herpers will love it.
I'm a punny guy. Do you ever soak yours if you have issues with them?
I have
and stuff.
Yeah.
It also seems like they would probably not enjoy that.
They actually don't seem to mind it too much. I have had it's few and far between. But I had animals, like I had a female. She probably went like a good 6 months, which but isn't unheard of by any means. Like these guys can do that no problem. But I could tell she definitely had some hard urates, and they were pretty large. And what I do for that is I will keep them in their tubs, so they're heated still. I'll fill them up about midway to the snake so that they don't have to. They're not swimming necessarily,
right?
But anytime they move, they have to swim. And leaving that overnight, set that up before I go to bed. By the time I wake up, they've passed whatever they have in there. And that works like a charm.
That's actually brilliant. I didn't even think of that. Fill in the whole tub in the rack so it's still warm. That's great.
And I didn't come up with that myself. That's Nick Bettini taught me that one. So, cool. Shout out to him for that. But
nice.
It's better than you see people trying to like express urates. It's like, that's crazy. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Especially how hard some of those things get, man.
Oh man, size of a golf ball. And
it's like trying to squeeze a kidney stone out of something.
Yeah. Now let them soak overnight, man. They'll pass it every time.
There's got to be something with like chondros and bloods and most bitis, like all those ambush type animals that hold waste for so long, like there has to be some mechanism that stops them from getting septic or something.
Yeah, being able to hold that just for so
With
long.
the amount that they're holding it for so long, like there's got to be something there that keeps that from happening, because
it's impressive.
Anything else, it's like there's no way they wouldn't just get sick and roll.
Yeah. Oh, and with short tails, you can see, like, you know, that when they're really holding their waist, that back third of their body is full. You know, a great little anchor, I guess. But it's when they pass, it's impressive.
Yeah, it was a theory we had a long time ago. At least my late mentor told me, was that and I'm going to butcher this because I'm not a scientist, but the section in which the waste is stored, for lack of a better word, is slower in digestive property than the other parts of the digestive system. So, and it's used almost like a fat reserve, where they're digesting it so slowly that if they needed to use it, so to speak, they could.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
It makes sense.
If food has been absent that long, they could use more nutrients out of the waste.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? In theory. And then it's also the theory that they're using it. I don't know if you guys talk about this, but using it as a pivoting point for ambush.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Gives them a good base to.
And it makes perfect sense. I've heard that last one, and then with the digestion, it's the I kind of maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like they're digesting the food all around that same time. It's that uptake of nutrients with the slower metabolisms. Like you said, they're holding on to it, and it's a reserve, and they can pull out of that for a longer period of time.
I never even considered that. That makes sense too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even if it's not nutrients per se, as so much as moisture or hydration. You know what I mean? If they're in a dry season, or the area that they're at in the wild, they don't have as much microclimate or as much rainfall or as much dew point or whatever, they can literally pull moisture out of the feces if need be.
Makes sense.
Which is why you rarely see those snakes fat in the wild, even if they're sitting outside of a mammal nest day in and day out, right?
And that is kind of the weird thing too, is you can have like a healthy gaboon in captivity versus a healthy gaboon in the wild. Like you can still look at those and be like, there's a pretty obvious difference in terms of like the overall body tone and stuff, to where you're like, that one in captivity, even if it's barely being fed, is still chunkier.
Yeah,
well, I think
even though it's an already chunky snakes, like an already chunky species, but like you can.
Yeah, but it also comes down to internal and external parasites, right? As well as the fact that when we see photos of these animals, we see videos of these animals in the wild, they're on alert, they're stressed, they're angry, they're defensive. So they're huffing and puffing and inflating their body and making themselves look bigger and badder than they really are. While as the one that we have at home, it's just chilling, sitting there, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like there are times when you see a quote unquote healthy animal in the wild and it's not, it's just pissed off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was on the there's that what is it? Snake Bite Assist. It's like an African group. And I was cruising that last night a little bit on Facebook. And there was someone posted a picture of a small gaboon. They're like, this is in Africa. They're like, this is in my yard. What is it? It's like, how wild would that be, dude? Like you walk outside to like go get firewood or something, and it's like you look down and it's like, oh, it's like seeing a copperhead here. It's it's just crazy.
Yeah, man.
It was like a perfectly gorgeous, healthy, like looked like someone would have just taken it and spread it on the ground to take pictures of it, like they had just produced it, a year ago. It's just a little gaboon just chilling. I'm like, that's so freaking cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was like that lady in where was it? I want to say might have been Free State or Johannesburg or something. Anyway, there's like a golf tournament, and like after the golf tournament or during the golf tournament, they have like a leisure area with all these like big picnic tables. Everyone's dressed in their Sunday best, and there's a buffet and wine and mimosas and the whole Sunday brunch thing. And this woman, maybe in her 50s, is sitting in one of those plastic lawn chairs, and she puts her foot down, and you hear the of the puff underneath her, and somebody sees it and they start to record, and she's like, what do I do? What do I do? And she's panicking, and they're like, look, just don't move. We called the snake catcher. He's coming on his way. And like whoever's filming this, excuse me, they get down their hands and knees to like film under the table, and you see like her ankles, like she's in high heels, like you see her ankles like start to get like fidgety, and they're like, stop moving, and the snake is just like slithering around her ankles, just like, how did I get here? What are all these golf clubs? Like, what's going on? Dude, luckiest lady of all time. Nothing happens. It eventually just moseys on its own way, and she stands up and runs away, and I can't fathom that. Jesus.
Yeah, I found the post right here. So this gaboon viper was spotted in my yard. Copper bait, Chingola copper bait. I don't know. Copper belt. I can't. That's wherever it is. But
okay.
Today I moved into the ravine, half a kilometer away. There must have been the Pleistophill snakes. I just nudged it with a long hook. Like, you just look down, and it's just a little gaboon just chilling.
Can't even imagine.
Man, and I'm looking. Oh yeah, look at that thing. It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yeah, it is wild.
That's something we said years ago, like gaboons are just African copperheads.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yep.
Pretty much.
If you're into African stuff, it's a cool group.
Yeah. Very cool.
Do a lot of identification posts and stuff. Like, someone just happened to come across an Aurora house snake, which I thought was hilarious, because like, how much do those go for here?
Oh yeah.
How few people are actually breeding them successfully. These people are like, what's this in my yard? But it's pretty neat.
Nice.
They just posted, I think last night, there was like a senior in high school somewhere over there that just died from a black mamba bite. It was pretty sad. But,
what's the name of that group?
Snake Bite Assist.
Okay. I'm looking at everything on my phone, so it's like super hard to read.
It's public, so.
Gotcha.
None of it's really occurring. None of it's here in the States, but it's just cool to see what other people are sort of dealing with. But something neat.
Super cool, man. Super cool.
So what are the species you're wanting to, time and space permitting? What's on the docket there for stuff you want to expand into?
Yeah, definitely like a deep dive back into boas for sure. And then I kept a lot of like different python species over the years, and I definitely know that's like something I'd like to jump back into. Scrubs really have always been something I would like to do. Nothing crazy, but a little bit of a dive into. Angolans, love Angolans.
My man.
I've kept, I guess like wheat belt Stimsons, because I kept children's, kept spotteds and stuff like that. I kept a few of the Liasis group. Like, I love water pythons. I'm a generalist, man. I like everything. If I had the space, I'd have it all, dude. There's really nothing that I'm like absolutely not. But pythons and boas, I've never really been a colubrid guy. You know, I kept some of the Asiatic rat snakes. I've kept spilotes. But colubrids never really did it for me. You know, as I'm getting older, I call them like my retirement snakes. Like I could imagine definitely getting into colubrids as I age out of the hobby. But it's always been pythons and boas for me, always. Like since as long as I can remember.
Do
I think
you know what happened to Bolivian boas?
they're still around. You just don't
Doesn't
see
seem
them
like
as
there's
much.
anybody doing anything with those anymore.
Yeah, the Amaralais.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got with the Brazilians and the Bolivians. I see Bolivians still, but not like what I used to see, like, you know, when Barry Miller was breeding them. Seeing those like really nice silverbacks or like the Kerry King line stuff. I definitely don't see as many or as high quality as I used to, but I think they're out there still.
Because that was another one, like early 2000s, mid 2000s. There was a good bit of people producing them on a regular basis, or it seemed like there was a consistent amount of them for sale on on an annual basis.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know. I don't really pay too much attention to it anymore
Even
these days.
cruising the Morph Market page.
Really see anymore ever. Not
Do you know
really.
Sonia? Her last name begins with a K. I can't remember. She breeds a handful of boas and pythons, but I know she had some available.
Okay.
I can't remember. They might have been Miller line. Not. Can't really remember right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always thought like what a great. I think Kevin Motter used to breed Bolivians and the Bloods, but like it's just like a great comparison to short tails. Like I always thought it'd be cool to have a bunch of Amaralai and the Bronger's Mine and stuff like
They were
that.
gorgeous, man. I couldn't tell you of those South American varieties and the boas. I don't think I could pick a favorite, man. It's so hard, like between the Guyanas and the Surinams and the Brazilians. Even the Brazilian reptiles in Brazil. Like,
growing up, it was you couldn't tell me that Vin Russo and Gus Renfro weren't gods. Like, they both had websites. I was always on them. Nothing ever changed on the website, but I was there every day just to make sure. But yeah, me growing up, man, like I didn't think it got any better than that. And diving into the Two Hopes, the Lemkeys, all that kind of stuff that's what I grew up on.
If you got back into those now and you were doing the morph thing, what would you gravitate towards? No morphs.
No morphs. Nope, not at all. The boa morphs are cool.
I see that IMG stuff, and it's
cool, but the boa world is such a mess because most of those, when you get into the morphs, none of that stuff's pure. And if you care about it, you care about it. If you don't, you don't. It's whatever. I'm not passing judgment. But for me, no interest. Like I keep them as pure as I can. I don't want to dive into that. It's such a mess, especially when you really start digging into it. Mess. And hey, God bless anyone that does it. Not hating on them, just not for me.
Yeah, at that point, you're breeding for the morph and not the species at all.
Yeah, and that doesn't interest me. It'd be all locality based if I were to jump back into it. But yeah, you are right. The IMG stuff is insane, man. It is cool.
I don't think I've seen a boa that was involved with the IMG gene in some form or fashion that I did not do a double take at.
Oh man. And then Vin Russo's doing like the blood IMG stuff, and that stuff is insane. I definitely like looking at it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's the same for ball pythons for me. It's like I have no idea what any of that is, but I mean it looks nice. It looks cool.
Yeah,
I like
cool to look at.
I like the pattern,
What about you guys? Anything that you would want to kind of jump back into that you don't keep currently?
The Terrahumaras again would be nice, but I think those are even harder to find now than they were when I had them, and they were pretty hard to find at that point too. So I don't know. If I could get my hands, like if I somehow managed to get my hands on some of the Calkers, I'd probably be all right with one or two of those.
Good pick.
I don't think Phil. We never really talked about whether or not you were like a boa guy in that regard.
I'm an Epicrates or Epicrates kind of guy, and I actually have a Brazilian tattooed on my leg that never got colored in. And
You're missing the best part.
I know, right? It's crazy. And to be honest, I've slipped out of boas, man. Like I really, I love the way they look. I appreciate them, but I just don't think they're for me. I'm definitely not I've learned I'm not the tropical guy. I'm the desert guy, right? Or arid guy, or steppe land, grassland, whatever you want to call it. But I've actually thought about redoing this tattoo into some kind of, old world viper or something. I don't know.
There you go.
It's got a lot of potential there to cover.
How the hell would they do that?
If you look at the tattoo, I could totally make it into like a Russell's or something. But regardless, I realized that there are a few python. Like, I really want to get Angolans. I do.
I've been tempted to, thanks to Casey and seeing his the Daytona and stuff. I was like, okay, those.
Yeah, and
nice.
the thing is, I'm
Those
just
are pretty
gonna,
cool.
as soon as Casey produces his own, I'm gonna probably be his first customer. But I was entertaining the idea of Simus just because of the size and the desertness of it, However, I do have those Miami ones by me, and I think it'd be kind of awesome to have a Miami red tail.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know, but those Miami red tails, they're rumored to only get like 4 foot. So I've entertained that idea.
I've heard that, and they got the I can't remember the name of the park. I feel like it's Miami. I kind of forget now, but Daring Estate. That was like a line I remember from back. Yeah.
Oh,
beautiful animals too.
Yeah. And as far as I know, and like I have friends that like a friend of a friend who's a security guard there and shit. So like finding it shouldn't be too difficult. But as far as I know, no one ever finds them longer than like 3 foot ever.
Gotcha.
And no one knows that that's just because they get eaten by birds or they get hit by cars or whatever. But
I've heard mixed things about them too, because I remember like growing up, it was at least from what I remember, this is going back a long time, but it was always kind of rumored that they were true Colombians. And I know as the years passed on, the looks have changed, and I've heard like speculation that maybe they've been hybridized with like, boa constrictor instead of imperator, which I have no idea, right?
From what I've gathered is they're arguably the most, how do I phrase this? The most Guyana-looking Colombians you've ever seen, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, yeah.
But they're totally Colombians that just got inbred to hell on this little patch of land, and because it's so, dare I say, protected, they are not considered invasive because they're only on this spot. And let's be real, if they ever venture out of the spot, it's just urban Miami. So like they're just not going to survive.
Where are they going to go?
Yeah, exactly. So they live in this one little spot, but you can't herp there. It's like armed guards all night and shit. So, but I have my ways.
That would be super cool. That'd be one on my list.
So I think that's probably the only boa that I would really entertain right now, and I definitely want to get into Angolans. But to be on that, I feel like they're still on that boa scale, that boa style, despite not being boas.
You guys are talking about Casey Cannon, right? Having them.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with? I think his name's Kelly Haller. Old school guy. Does like Angolans, children's pythons. Used to do anacondas. Did bloods for a little bit.
Okay.
But if you go on Fauna and check him out, he arguably has some of the nicest Angolans I've ever seen, and like very fair prices. But
nice.
Old school guy. No social media, nothing like that, but produces very high quality animals.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Are Angolans more difficult to produce than balls?
I believe they are, but they're not supposed to be hard. If that makes sense. I just feel like people just don't do them.
So I know Terry Burwell's produced a good bit of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I just always wondered. I mean, they're still fairly expensive, but I wonder if it's like a rough scale thing where there's just not enough people with them doing that to.
Yeah, I feel like it was
supply the demand.
It was super niche and super expensive, and nobody bred them. So the people that did breed them, they wanted to keep the price high because they had to pay a lot of money for it. Why should someone else get to pay little? You know what I mean?
And the prices on those things back in the day were absolutely insane. Like, next level.
They're definitely cool.
Yeah, man.
Did
you ever do anything with Corrales at all? Any tree boas or anything like that?
No, never. Not anything. No, really no arboreal species at all as far as boas and pythons go. They interest me, but not like maybe to have one or two in the collection would be really cool. Like there's stuff like that, like small numbers would be really cool. Like I've had Dominican red mountain boas.
That's cool.
Yeah, and they were neat. It was a long time ago. Jamaican yellow boas are probably my favorite species ever. I mean, I've never kept them, but there's just something about those. I mean, that'd be, if we're talking dream thing to keep, that would be on my dream list for sure. What's it, Randy? I'd butcher his last name. Begins with a P. Yeah. And he's a Washington guy too.
He's actually in the group chat. He's been clapping his hands at you all night.
Oh, right on. Yeah, good guy. I had the pleasure of meeting him at when Jeff and Kendra did Carpet Fest.
Nice.
Because I keep to myself, man. I'm like really low key. Even on my social media, it's just my snakes. But I did go to Carpet Fest. I got to meet Ryan Young. Got to meet Nick. I got to meet Randy. Jeff and Kendra. I think that was the first time I had met them. And it was, great experience. It was really cool. It was a lot of listening to Nick talk, as you guys know. But hey, when someone's talking the way he does, you listen. So
yeah.
It was a really cool experience to meet all those people and just to see the people that are out here. And we have some heavy hitters, man. Casey Lazick.
Oh yeah.
We have a lot of guys out here in Washington doing big stuff, man, or have done big stuff. Yeah.
East Coast, West Coast, baby.
The more I see pictures of Idaho and stuff, the more I want to get out there as like a herping spot, because it seems like it's deceptively diverse depending on where you're
I haven't made it out there yet, but it's on my list. I kind of stick to my side of the mountains. Like I don't get out to Eastern Washington much, like to see the desert and stuff. But herping on our side is like, it's pretty dismal. You got to go over the mountains to see the good stuff.
Just the landscape looks nice. That's a state that doesn't strike me as one that comes to mind for a lot of people when they think of herping and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I think people think of the Idaho potatoes and that it's just kind of vast barren fields, and
it's beautiful
pictures
country,
and stuff
man.
I've seen. Yeah, it seems really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, next level. And it's not incredibly far. Like from where I am, I mean, it's 4 hours. It's not far. I mean, I guess 4 hours is far, but when you live in a big state, it doesn't seem that far.
Yeah, like exactly.
Growing up in Massachusetts, a 45-minute drive is like I thought I was going on vacation. Like you couldn't get me to leave somewhere for an hour.
Yeah.
I do remember when we were up there for the wedding and stuff, we'd be like, "Oh yeah, we got to drive back to Rhode Island." When we leave dinner here, people are like, "Oh my god." Like an hour drive. We're like, it's really not that serious. Like,
yeah. Oh, when I was a kid, man, if we drove like an hour, 2 hours, like I thought it felt like vacation. Like when am I going to be home again? Like, I'm so far.
Well, it's like the first time my fiance and I drove to Billy Hunt's house, which is on the other side of Florida from where I am. It's like 3.5, depending on traffic, right? And I was like, oh man, we're gonna be driving like 3 hours. This is our first like little road trip. And she's like, you realize we do like 5 hours a night road cruising for snakes, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't click in my head, like, because it's just is what you do, know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just my commute to work, with traffic. It's not that it's really that far, but I commute 2 hours every day, an hour each way.
Wow.
And, it's nothing. Like a 45-minute hour drive is like, when you live in a place like this, it's nothing.
Yeah.
I'll drive 2 hours. I've driven 3 or 4 hours just to go somewhere and then drive right back home. Which I would have been halfway across the seaboard on the East Coast.
Which that explains like a lot what somebody just said about the Northeast. Excuse me. So I work in retail sales, and I get people that are one town over. So I don't know, 20-minute, 30-minute drive, if that. And they're like, oh, I can't make it until tomorrow. I'm all the way in so-and-so. Right. And it's like, dude, that's 20 minutes away. Like you could do that on your lunch break. Right. Right. Man. But that they're all, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut transplants. So
when you live in those places, it's so tight. It's like, realistically, everything I needed to do was probably within
there's
like
a
a
reason
5-mile radius. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't have to go anywhere to do anything.
That's the thing here, because where I live, we have a lot of the rivers and sounds and stuff. We got a lot of bridges, and so we always make the joke, like, if people have to cross a bridge, they don't want to go.
Yeah.
So,
well, I do think it's interesting because if you're an East Coaster, a true East Coaster, you tend to gravitate towards 95, right? I-95 goes from Maine down to Key West, right?
Yep.
Or actually, technically Miami, but who's counting? So when you get into the Carolinas, though, it kind of gets inland a little bit, and I'm looking at my first trip to Myrtle Beach from Florida. It was like 10 hours, but 4 hours was just to get off of 95 in South Carolina and go to Myrtle Beach, which I thought was crazy.
It gets like that in Virginia too. I lived down in like 45 minutes south of Richmond, and that's like 3 hours from the coast. It starts getting inland up there. Yeah,
for sure. Oh,
I've always, like, even now, my house right now, like, if there wasn't hills, I can see the Puget Sound. I'm a 10-minute walk from the water. If I look out my back porch, I can see the mountains. I'm 35-40 minutes from the mountains. It's kind of the best of both worlds. 3 hours from the desert. It's pretty cool place.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
It's neat.
It's so bizarre that you're that close to those three different sort of biomes. It's odd.
Yeah, I mean, the water's, it can't be more than 1.5 miles from my front door. And then the mountains are, to get into the mountains, you're driving an hour, but you're there in 35-40 minutes, like, at the bases of at least the Cascade Range. The Olympics across the sound for me. But then the desert, go over the passes, and a couple, 3 hours from the desert.
That's cool, man. That's super cool.
Way different than being on the East Coast, man. I never I leave my house, to go to work in the morning, and if the sun's rising, behind the mountains, I've been here 7 years now, and the shit still blows my mind because I never seen that growing up back home. Like, it's insane to me. It's absolutely nuts.
Oh yeah.
Now he he can wake up and walk over and watch orcas take down a boat out of fight and revenge.
But it's funny, dude, when you're here, man, like, you don't even appreciate it. Like, my first few years, it was like, oh my God. But then it's just like, there's the mountains, and like everyone here says, the mountains are out because it's always, cloudy and rainy here. Yeah. So when you get those nice days in the winter when it's dry and no clouds and the mountains are snow-capped, not much beats it, dude. It's insane to see.
Yeah.
It's those days that Kurt Cobain smiles upon thee.
I don't know if he did a whole lot of smiling. Especially the town he was from. Aberdeen's kind of a dump.
Yeah, I've heard everything I've seen and heard about
nice place.
Sounds like it's pretty depressing.
Yeah. The music makes sense all of a sudden,
Courtney Love did it.
Oh, jeez.
Dude, tell me she didn't. I mean, come on.
The evidence looks like it's there.
Yeah, or she at least facilitated it.
She had something to do.
She's like, you're not happy. Just you know what I mean?
Go up to the greenhouse for a bit.
We can fix this.
You're not happy. I left you something in the closet over there, just in case you're feeling squirrely.
Weird factoid is Kurt Cobain's daughter recently married Tony Hawk's son.
I saw that. The other day.
I was like, that's odd.
Yeah.
And then saying that Courtney loves your mother-in-law, like, Jesus.
Yeah, there's no hiding that one. So
it's a lot of crazy in that one.
I liked Home, man. I thought the music was good.
It was great, but I can't help but wonder if Cobain wrote like half of it and was like,
I'm sure.
I'm not going to use this. You can have it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't know. Neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there.
Orca sightings never good, old Randy said. He lives on Whidbey.
Whidbey. Yeah.
I can't tell if that's an L or not. My vision is getting really bad.
I can't see it, but yeah, he lives out on Whidbey. So Whidbey's like across from me, basically.
I don't think I get tired.
I can see Whitby across the water from my house.
Like, we have dolphins here. I see dolphins all the time, and like all the out of towners are like, "Oh my god, a dolphin!" I'm like, "Yeah, fucking dolphin." If I saw an orca, though, I'd be like, "Look at that thing!" Like, those things are also terrifying to me.
So
like,
when I paid one of those trips to go out and see him, and we went, the guy said it's the furthest he ever had to bring a crew out. So we were like, an hour and a half into open water going towards Canada, and
the Coast
we
Guard
spent maybe like 2 hours out there with them. I took 3 photos because it's that amazing. You don't even have to pick your phone up, dude. Like, that shit lives within your brain. Like, I had no need to take a photograph because it's that cool.
Watching those things gang up on like a baby seal stuck on an iceberg or something, man, it's depressing and it's terrifying and fascinating all at the same time.
Or dude,
so
like,
ours don't do that. Because
really?
we have residential orcas, so they're salmon eaters. They don't hunt seals here.
Wow.
Yeah, different. They're orcas, but it's different. The residential pods are different.
Salmon and boats.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's just, to me, it's the fact that like they're so smart. They know exactly what they're doing. Everything is calculated. Like, none of it's by mistake. It's not like a shark where it's like, "Oh, I bit you because I thought you were food. Sorry." Like, orcas, it's like, "Nah, I'm bored, and you look like a toy."
Yeah, I came to kill.
We're gonna play a game.
Yeah, man, it totally kills me when you have like those small fishing boats and the seal jumps on the boat because the boat's surrounded by orcas.
But those orcas like, know that thing is in the boat. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, where to go? It's a no. We'll wait.
Yeah, we'll wait.
All this boat till the
you'll kick them off eventually.
That's right.
Oh god,
it's just and then seeing like the the SeaWorld videos of some of the trainers that like. The whales are like, "Okay, I'm tired of the game. I'm gonna
just grab their leg and bring them down,
pull you underwater, and then I'm gonna let you get this close to the surface, and then I'm gonna pull you down again, and then I'm gonna play that 5 times until like I don't know, I'd just die. I'd have
I think that's what happens.
Drown, like just crazy. And I don't think it's them just. Like with that particular incident where it was doing that with that guy, that was the thing where it's like, I'm not going to actually kill you, but I want you to know that I fully can, if I wanted to, take you out, no problem.
Oh yeah.
It's the level of intelligence and intent that, like sharks are kind of scary in their own right of like, it's all just very mechanical and very emotionless and very like transactional, I guess. With orcas, it's like, nah, it's 100% personal. Like,
they're thinkers.
yeah. I don't know.
Well, I just stumbled across someone on Instagram the other day. I gotta find it. I'll send it to you guys. But do you guys know that river otters in the United States have turf wars?
I feel like I've seen like stupid Instagram videos of them like fighting over stuff.
No, it's not like 2 otters or like 3 otters fighting each other. It's like 10
gangs in New York.
It's gangs in New York. Yeah, dude, like 10 otters on the surface, like speedboats going
Brian towards Jock's books in real life.
Yeah, dude, exactly.
Yeah, like meeting up in the middle,
like and hitting, and then it's just like blood in the water and like thrashing, and it's crazy, man. They're so cute and fuzzy.
Oh, have you ever seen one like close up?
Oh yeah.
Dude, their teeth are like they're massive.
Wild. I mean, we got them all over by me, and we got some decent sized ones. And you see them dead on the highway every once in a while, which is super sad. But you never see them do that. You'll see like 2 of them playing, or like adorable. 2 or like a mom and dad with babies like playing, and it's super cute. Like, oh look, they caught a fish, or whatever. This is a gangs in New York, man. Crazy.
Well, you got to keep it cute for the humans, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, as soon as the sun goes down, it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll find that video. I'll send it to Smitty so he could share it on the network page, because that's intense.
They got video of them fighting.
Yeah, dude, I sent it to Anna Maria recently. Let me find it. I'll hold it to the screen just because it's that crazy. Hold on, let me find this.
Someone just happened to be like driving by and was like, "What are those otters doing? There's 20 of them and they're fighting."
Legit. It's gnarly, man. It's gnarly.
I just like to think of them doing like those old school like gang moves with a little song and dance.
It's utterly despicable. Look at them go! Oh my god!
Yeah, that's nuts.
Just wait for it.
Good god! What?
And like, if you zoom in, like, there's blood in the water.
Dude!
Some of the ones that are injured come out. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. Oh, that's funny. It says Gangs of New York under the video.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's great. I didn't even realize that.
That's funny.
But look at him, man.
That big fight that busted out on that dock a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, was that Alabama?
Yeah, probably.
Sounds Alabama.
Dude, that's nuts. And Matt, like, that person's probably just like drinking a cup of coffee on the porch, getting their morning going. You look outside, and all of a sudden, you got like 30 or 40 otters just gunning it towards each other.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
I gotta find that and watch it.
I'm gonna send it to you on THN.
Yeah.
Actually, Palmetto Coast, because it comes up first. There you go. Wild. Absolutely
Nature is a marvel.
Yep. It's metal.
That too. I showed my coworkers the video that account posted of that carpet eating that possum.
Oh yeah, dude.
And they were like, "Oh my god!" It's like, "What?" I'm like, "It's what they do." I was like, I had to explain the Aussie Dreamcatcher concept to him.
Yeah.
Which also has to be a shirt. I just gotta figure out how I'm gonna do it.
Bro, that just take a screenshot of that video and just reduce it,
See,
put it in negative.
It's tough because it's too long. Like, you can't really tell exactly what it is. I feel like the Aussie Dreamcatcher thing, it has to be like fully wrapped.
Yeah, you're right.
You know?
You're right. Yeah, it's got to be like
otherwise it just looks like some weird human centipede kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, touche. The Aussie Dreamcatcher. I love it. Well, did you guys see that zoo somewhere in Australia? And there was like a, what the hell monkey was it? I think it was a gibbon. And they have like, they have like the monkey island with like the moat around it. And they have like all the rope swings and stuff for the monkeys at the zoo. Well, I guess one of those was like a rough-tailed possum or something.
Yes, I know.
One of those large Australian possums goes into the gibbon's enclosure and it like grabs it and throws it like 200 yards or 100 yards away, right? And like that possum is legit just dead, but it like beat it up, killed it, and threw the carcass across the zoo.
Dude, primates are scary.
Dude, yeah.
Absolutely. Like even those little like capuchin monkeys, like I'd be scared shit.
Oh yeah, no man. No Marcel for me. But I just think it's interesting that on a sad level, that it doesn't matter what country you're in or what part of the world, possums always get the shitty end of the stick.
Oh yeah.
Those
absolutely.
poor possums, man. You're getting
and they're
thrown
actually
by
pretty like
gibbons
neat little animals.
They're adorable, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
Man.
Ellie got some Cocoa Puff knockoff brand organic things from the grocery store or something not that long ago, and it had like little chimpanzees on it. They're looking all cute. All I see when I see that box is like that lady that got absolutely obliterated. But
oh yeah, was that in Connecticut or something like that?
I think so.
Yeah, I remember that. That was crazy.
Like maybe like Maine or Vermont. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was somewhere on the East
Coast. Sounds like something that would happen in Ohio.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't think anything ever good happens in Ohio.
Especially animal related. Jesus.
I see the little cute, adorable chimpanzees. People are like, oh, they're so cute. And I'm like, that thing could rip your freaking face off if it wanted to with its bare hands.
Yep.
We have one of those big game parks like out here. It's like the Olympic. I can't remember what it's called. I've never been, but like they have like grizzlies, wolves, all that. It's not for me. I don't want to see animals like that in those kind of smaller enclosures. But from what I heard, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, man.
It's just not for me.
Some things just weren't meant to be kept in captivity.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if I remember correctly, they took on a bunch of like at least the origins of the park, from what I remember hearing, they took on a bunch of like Disney animals, that were used for movies and stuff. And then they housed them permanently or whatever.
That's what freaks me out so much when I see like when I go to the zoo and there's gorillas and stuff is like how freakishly human they are. Like when they're looking at you, they're not just like looking at you like, oh, there's the food monkey. It's like, no, that's like,
At
bitch,
the
if
zoo
I were
here,
just a little more evolved, I could totally get through this glass and fuck you up.
oh, at the zoo here, we have gorillas, and I remember like this male gorilla like grabbed a female, and then just had his way with her like in front of us. And I've never been more thankful for like the glass because it could have been me.
Yeah.
Doing that, and he points at you and he's like, "You're dead."
Oh, he was like looking at me the whole time too. I'm like, ah, man.
Like,
this
don't make
isn't
eye
good."
contact with me, man. That's weird. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Well, it's like Steve Ranella. You know, he did an expedition into the Amazon with the Amur Indians and to like learn their hunting and fishing techniques and stuff. And he talks on the show and podcast too about, I think they shot a woolly monkey, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And them like showing them how to prepare it and field dress it and cook it and everything. And like the whole process was super psychological for him because it's like a little tiny human.
It's not that far off from cannibal.
Yeah. And like they're just eating it because that's what they eat. It's game meat. That's what they eat. And he's eating it and he's like, the taste probably wouldn't have been so bad had I not been through the whole process psychologically, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's wild, man.
Even just when you see them up close, it's like hard not to. Like you see yourself in them, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard not to.
Yeah.
Well, there's A&E had that one show I Survived, which if anybody ever watched it is really good. It's freaking brutal but fascinating. And they had one episode where this guy was in, where was he? One of the countries in Africa that has chimps, and he was with like two other guys, and they got ambushed by a group of them. And like he somehow got away, but the guy that they were with like got killed by this group of chimps, and I mean like mutilated, like unbelievable. And you could, I'll have to hunt down the episode if anyone's interested. Message me and I'll find it, send it to you. But like him talking about it, dude, he's like, it's just. He was talking about just how huge they were, but then also how freakishly quiet and fast they were as well. And the whole like him telling the story, man, it's like nightmarish, just unbelievable, you know. And it's crazy that people think they're just
not a place I want to be.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot of ways I don't want to go out. That's definitely up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
For sure.
No, it sounds absolutely horrible. Just being torn apart, like. No, thank you.
I can't even fathom the strength it takes for someone to do that in the first place. Like the fact that they can do that and it takes very little effort on their part.
And then the teeth too, like those incisors, man. You know, 3 inches long. You know, it's like, no, thank you.
I just saw somebody posted. I guess obviously we all know that there's the conflict in Israel, and in some of the war-torn areas in Gaza. It's completely abandoned, right? Nobody's there. It's all bombed out, everything. And there's like a troop of baboons walking through.
Really?
And it's like the first time people have seen baboons in that part of the world in decades, if not longer. So I guess they knew that all the humans were gone. They're like, screw it. We'll take it back.
You can take it back.
Yep.
It's insane how quick wildlife takes over.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys have seen those like documentaries about like Chernobyl and like the wolves and stuff. Like,
yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
Well, gentlemen, that being said, we're at the 2-hour mark. Is there anything else about short tails or bows we want to cover before we wrap things up?
I could go on forever. So yeah, if you guys have questions, let me know.
Randy said they rip off dicks. Fuck that.
Yeah, that is very scarily true.
It would be one thing if it was like a one-off kind of thing, but it's like consistent. Like if you're a dude, it's going.
Oh, it's like what they do.
You're losing it.
Yeah.
It's like their signature move. It's like their fatality in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Get over here.
Just grab you by your dick.
Oh, God.
Grab the tip and twist it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
this is episode 187.
If people want to follow you, Where's the best
Sound
place?
Serpents on Facebook, Instagram. I post on Instagram by default. It goes to my Facebook, but I'm always active on Instagram. If you want to message me or reach out, that's the easiest way to do so. Sound_Serpents. Underscore is important.
I'm sure it would come up regardless.
Yeah, I think so.
The Instagram at least makes it a little easy to where if you don't have that stuff, they're like, we think you mean this.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if it's people that are like your friends are following them and stuff. Makes it super good.
Pops up pretty easy.
Well, this episode is brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out. Facebook, Instagram. Use the code THN at checkout. Save yourself some money. Then hop on over to FullVaceApparel.com. Use the code THN at checkout as well. Get 15% off your order. That is the exclusive promo code just for listeners and viewers like you. Puget Sound Pythons. Give them a follow on Morph Market. Give them a follow on Facebook. Follow them on Instagram. Stay in the loop with what they are doing. They got some projects in the works for this upcoming season that you should definitely be paying attention to. And then Cold-Blooded Caffeine. Use that link down below. Get yourself some coffee. Get that Snakes and Stogies blend. I don't believe it will disappoint. It is damn good. And then get a pour over. They got all kinds of stuff on there. Get our coffee. Get the Project Herpetoculture guys coffee. Get the Carpets and Coffee. All that stuff. Check it out. We will be back Thursday for THP. As far as I know, I still have to upload last week's episode. I was going to over the weekend, and then lice happened and some other things, and it just was like, I'll get to that when I get to it. So it exists. Just got to upload it.
And for those listening live, Venom Exchange Radio, Marco Shea, Part 2. Tonight, tomorrow.
Ooh.
Maybe the day after. I'll see how I feel. Keep your eyes peeled. Turn the notifications on.
Eyes peeled, ears open.
Eyes peeled, ears open.
That's right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.